So in 2012, I made this sword. I modeled it really quickly with 3ds Max, and I hand painted the textures in Photoshop. And I was digging through my files, and I was looking at YouTube, and I saw the videos, and I was like, I wonder what this looks like as a PBR. So I started putzing with it. So what I did was I basically went through and selected the little spheres and the runic emblems, and I'm making a light map with that, or emissions. An emissions map is just simply a map that will fake project light. And what I'm doing then is I clone that map and I turn that into a color emissions. And this controls what color I want to use for my emissions. And then once I'm done with that, I copy everything and I'm going to make a height map. Now, a height map is very simple, very easy to understand. Whatever's white will stand out, whatever's dark will recess back in space. And with this, you can see, because I have hand-painted textures, they're creating value distortions. So what would happen is it would actually distort the metal with the normal map. So you can see me painting out a lot of this stuff. I don't really need it. And what I'm doing is I'm going through and like, here's the hilt. I want the hilt to basically stand out a little bit more, kind of give it some ridges. And you can see I'm just going through kind of the parts of the sword and adding a little bit darks. And I'm kind of going underneath it. I have multiple layers. I'm going underneath it. And I'm basically painting some of that stuff out. The little gems, I'm very quickly doing a soft round and then doing a bigger soft round under it with less pressure just to get that spherical look. And then I'm hand painting all these little leaves where I think they should pop up. And I'm just putzing right now at this point. I just wanted to see what this is going to look like. And ultimately, it's a pretty simple way to hand paint the texture. I mean, this is easier in Instamat or Substance, but for me, I'm just kind of playing around. And as you can see, I'm just kind of roughly going around and painting the shading out of the gold hilt that I had originally. And so then once I'm done with that, I copy it over and kind of adjust it. I'm just making sure it's in the right spot according to the texture, and I'm erasing some of the stuff that I'm not needing. Again, going back, doing the same thing. This is kind of a cathartic process. It's pretty simple and it's pretty easy to understand. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to jump into the other maps. The other maps are the metalness map, and I got a roughness map and things like that. And so what I'm ultimately doing is, in roughness, you're using a white to basically create some shine, and you're using black to basically make things look rough. Same thing with the metalness map. Again, white is going to make it shine, black is going to make it look rough and not very shiny. So then I take my maps and export them out, and because Photoshop has taken out the 3D normal map ability, I just went to some website. There's tons of them out there, and I simply grabbed the height map and I exported it out to create a normal map. And with that idea in mind, then what I can do is go right into 3ds Max. And you can see my original standard material, and I create a standard surface, and I'm going to just link my Photoshop file. I'm not editing the color, I'm just kind of playing around with it. And then I'm bringing most of my maps here. You can see I'm just dropping in my maps. And for the normal map, you need a normal node on there between the node on the surface and so on. And then you can see I'm playing around with different things. So I dumped in my height map just to see what it's going to look like if I wanted to play around with it as a different surface. I've also got the roughness map and the metalness map, and I'm playing around with it. I want to see kind of what I can kind of come up with. And I realized that, the values weren't correct, but, instead of going back into Photoshop, I can just add a color correction node and change that color correction and then kind of reassign that material. And this is a really quick way to do things so that you don't have to redo a texture or go back and add filters to something. Then what I'm going to do is I'm deciding that, I've kind of got what I like. I'm going to play with the emissions, and you'll see me just kind of futz with numbers. Now I'm going into the file itself, and I'm adding a height displacement map. I'm using the height map, and I'm just dumping it in displacement, and I'm adding up some different settings there. It kind of varies for each particular object. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and add in an environment map, because PBR works best with HDRI. So that's basically the process. And this is the old sword, and this is the new sword here. Let me know what you think, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.